Today is Sunday, April 11th, and a couple of pretty cool updates. So I got a upgraded set of calipers and discs from Matco, and they're actually dual puck brake calipers. So there's exactly two of the same size brake pads and a piston that operates each one, and 60% thicker brake discs. So that means you can absorb 60% more energy through your braking, and you've actually got twice the stopping power. They were a really easy direct swap out install, and I've been flying on them for about 2 weeks now. I've got about 10-12 hours, whatever it is, on them, and I couldn't be happier with this decision. I think that the TSi's stock brakes, they work and they'll get you stopped, but if you have a kind of a shorter runway like this one here, I went through brake pads already really quickly and had to replace them, and then this swap out I think will really just increase the longevity of my brakes, as well as kind of provide a little bit better stopping power when I need it. Sorry, it's a little windy out here today. Also, because the 915 engine likes to idle at just over 2,000 RPM for a nice smooth idle, it causes the taxi speed to be a little quick. So regardless of which brakes, if you've got these larger ones or if you've got the standard ones, you want to keep in mind not to drag your brakes to keep that taxi speed consistent. You really want it to be kind of like break it down to a slow speed and then let your speed build back up, and then keep repeating that process rather than dragging your brakes. That being said, with the higher energy brake discs that I've got here now, I guess theoretically I could drag my brakes a little bit and it would be okay. So yeah, I'm really happy with that upgrade. I'll show a little bit of kind of that process here, but I think the brake set runs about $800. So of all the available options, this is by far, in my opinion, the best way to go. It's a fraction of the cost of Behringer's, and the effort on replacement is pretty much not even there. You'll see here in a second, it's just a direct swap out with a little bit of a fitting change to get it to fit into the gear leg. Well, for the line to get from the gear leg to the caliper there, because the caliper is a little bit bigger now. It's just a little bit of a change in fittings, which I'll show you in a second. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. It took about an hour per wheel, and then you re-bleed the brakes, and just in a morning you can have the whole thing swapped out and ready to go. So like I said, really pleased with this upgrade. So here's a little bit of what it was like to install them. So the installation of these is actually fairly straightforward. It just drops in replacement, no modification needed to the gear leg. The only thing I had to do in order to get this to run nicely up into the gear leg is this little compound fitting here. And I'm just working with what I got. There's probably a little bit cleaner way to do it, but I'm out here in kind of the middle of nowhere for my airport, and so you could see on that leg, it's a lot tighter between here and here. It's a lot tighter on that leg, and I did that one first. And so it might not be needed on every installation. This piece of steel tubing, 1/4-inch tubing, has that little slight bend on it from the factory. So you might be able to get it to bend and come back this way, and then just put a little bend in it there to bring it back up to here. But working with what I've got, this is how I did it, and I think it's going to be okay. I just had to shorten this piece a little bit to get the fittings in, and yeah, other than that little bit there, it's just a drop-in replacement. So the other rotor, the rotor is really easy. That's just a drop-in replacement, and you get the bolts torqued down and everything should be good. So I'm going to pop this other wheel on and get out there and go test it. So I pulled the plane inside here. It's super windy outside. So yeah, another advantage of these larger brakes is not only, of course, stopping power when you're landing, but also now I can actually hold full throttle at run up. And that's not really standard procedure with the Rotax engines, but for any reason that you might need to, say, balance your prop or just whatever kind of testing that you might be doing, the brakes do hold the plane at full throttle run up now, which is really nice. Of course, I still chalk it if I'm planning to do something like that, or I still would chalk it. But, you know, having that braking power there is a really nice plus. So, and actually something really important that I wanted to tell everybody here, a pretty big issue that I had on my plane that just kind of started to arise over the last maybe 5 or 7 hours of flight. Well, by the way, I have my 40 hours flown off. Phase 1 is complete. I've got about 43 hours on the plane now. But last week I made the decision, so I'm leaving tomorrow morning early for Sun and Fun. And I've got a long cross-country trip from Idaho to Florida to make. And I was getting low fuel pressure at, you know, about 9,000 feet on the climb. And then, you know, I was kind of thinking that that's not good, of course. But then the other day, as it was starting to warm up, it was kind of a hot day, I got low fuel pressure at 7,000 feet, which is completely unacceptable. So the reason for it was I had an old firewall kit, old firewall forward kit, and it had all 5/16 inch fuel lines. You can see I've got some provisions for the trip there on the wing. Kind of don't mind those, but so yeah, 5/16 inch fuel lines in the hole from the wing to the selector, from the selector to and then everything on the firewall was all 5/16 inch line. I didn't know, of course, that that was inadequate. But if you have one of the old firewall forward kits or any firewall forward kit for a TSi, check your fuel lines. If they're 5/16, they're trash. Throw them away. Do not use them. I had to spend all last week swapping out all of my old fuel lines for 3/8 lines. In addition to that, the old gascolator that used to come with these firewall forward kits, I had to swap it out for this Andair larger unit here. It allows much more fuel flow. It's got a huge surface area on the filter element inside. And so basically I've had to do everything to allow as much fuel as possible from the tanks to the engine with as little resistance as possible along the way. So, oh, and another thing, with that 5/16 inch fuel line came this fuel selector here that has 1/8 inch NPT fittings. If you've got 1/8 inch NPT fittings, these are completely inadequate as well. These will certainly, if you just look at the diameter there of that little fitting, I mean, what's that, like a 1/4 inch fuel line now? So you're seriously restricting the flow from the 5/16 down to the 1/8 inch NPT fitting. The new firewall forward kits do come with 1/4 inch NPT, which is much better, and 3/8 lines, but I strongly advise that you check out your kit and just make sure you've got the larger gascolator, the larger fittings on your fuel selector, and the larger diameter lines. So I think that, so I've got a couple hours now flying with this new setup, giving it its fair shake and putting it through its paces, and it's holding much, I get about 2 or 3 PSI higher fuel pressure, and it stays much more solid than it did before. This ended up being a great solution here for me. In addition to that, oh man, let's see if I can show it in there. In addition to that, I installed the fuel manifold, there it is, that I showed in a previous video. I had to put mine in over here. Don't worry, there's lots of clearance there. I had to put mine in over here just because I didn't want to relocate my entire fuel pump and all of that. But it fits really nicely there, and I'm really satisfied with it. And it really cleans up the whole firewall. So I'm very satisfied with that change as well, and it seems to be holding up really nicely. So yeah, I guess a public service announcement: if you do have the old firewall kit and small diameter fuel lines or anything with 1/8 inch NPT fittings in your fuel system, make the necessary changes to upsize all of it before you've gotten as far as I have and had to tear everything out the week before a long trip. So anyway, I'll be at Sun and Fun, I think, either Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning, and I hope to see anybody who is there. It'll be cool to meet a lot of people, and hopefully it's a lot of fun. And it's time to get these wheel pants put back on, because now I'm done talking about my new brakes. So have a good week, everybody.